Given me the space to do the search. I know some of you, Sam, repeatedly texted me, and I couldn't respond. I wanted to, but thank you for allowing us to. I know it was a long several weeks for all of us, including me. So,
Trev, can you go over the financials on this one?
yeah, I think it's and I might misquote a few things, but it's an 8-year contract, $74 million. The contract's 90% guaranteed. There's some deferred comp that can be earned, I think, each 2 years at best. And we have a salary pool of $7 million. So it's really important to me that we have the resources necessary to go out and hire the very best staff that we can find. And so we have a big vision and goals and plans for our football program, and we're going to resource it in a way that allows us to be successful.
Did you have to do any negotiating with the Panthers?
Yeah, this was, I don't want to get into all the details. I will say that this was a long and arduous process. And, it's hard enough to negotiate when between two parties, right? Two interested parties. It involves agents and universities. I think the unique challenge here was we actually had a tri-party challenge, right? And so finding a way to structure a business arrangement that everybody was willing to sign off on was a bit of a challenge, and there were some fits and starts to it, and some concern that ultimately, but quite frankly, I from day one, as I said, Matt Rhule was candidate 1A, and I believed he was the perfect person based on his experience and based on where we find ourselves today as a program, to help us rebuild and to build the foundation needed. And so while there was a period where it looked like it wasn't going to happen, we just decided to keep working and keep trying. And in the end, there was a delta. And I said, wait a minute, you want to coach the University of Nebraska wants you. We're going to find a way to get this done. And so with the support of Chancellor Green and President Carter and our board, we're able to get that done. And I believe we hired the right person for the right time for our university.
When you let Scott go, Matt wasn't a candidate because he still had a job. So what did the first month of the search look like? And on the day he got fired, how quickly did you call Matt?
Well, it was very early, and the reality is while he still had a job, there were quite a few reports that he may have some challenges remaining in Carolina. So that was early on in the process of trying to assemble how our process was going to work. And I want to say the other thing, part of the reason why I'm very grateful to all of you for respecting our trying to do a search is it was really important to me that it be done very quietly and confidentially out of respect for Coach Joseph and our team. It's really important to me. When you fire a coach after 3 games, there's one of two things going to happen. It's going to be total chaos, drama, chaos. And that didn't happen because of our coaching staff. And so I just didn't want the search to be constantly put in our coach's face or our players. I didn't think that was fair to them. And so we tried to create a strategy where we could, go about our process, Sam, interview as many people as we could, get to know them. But very early on, once it became apparent that Coach Rhule was going to be available, and I took it as a bit of a challenge because everybody told me there's no way he's coaching this year. And so we had to find a way to convince him that he should coach this year and that this was the place that he should do it. And we're fortunate to be in the position we're in today.
What day was the turning point, Trev, as far as just when it looked like you were going to get Matt Rhule? Like, was there a day that was the last week?
We agreed at 11 o'clock Thanksgiving morning. So this was hard. This was really hard. And so, we won't go into all the details, but I will only tell you that it was a hard process, and I think Matt was determined to find a way, and I was determined to find a way.
Trev, was Mickey ever under any serious consideration? Was he one of the 13? And did you talk to him? When you talked to him, I guess, how did he take it?
He took it really good. Yes, Mickey, as we said at the press conference, he had the benefit of being a head coach for 9 games, and I continued meeting with Mickey weekly, and then ultimately, as a process, we sat down and he walked me through his vision, and Mickey's an outstanding coach, and he's obviously got a huge and bright future in the business, and we'll see whether it continues here. Obviously, Coach Rhule wants to sit down with him, but I have so much respect for Mickey Joseph and what he's done for our program. Our players do as well. But for me, looking at where our program is today, and perhaps some of its risk mitigation, if you will, having somebody that has built a program multiple times at multiple levels under difficult circumstances, Matt Rhule was the coach that was the most obvious choice for me.
Trev, did you have like a final three? Did you characterize it that way?
Well, you end up going through this process, and the challenge is you may have your, as you mentioned it, let's just say you have your A-list candidates, and so when I said 1A, that was always Matt Rhule. Can we find a way to get somebody like Matt Rhule to come here? And then there's other coaches that you think, hey, these are really good coaches. Let me tell you something. All of these coaches are great coaches, and they all have a tremendous amount of respect for the University of Nebraska. And then you have other folks that you're really interested in, but not sure how it works. What if the 2 or 3 or 4 people that you're really interested in either choose not to coach or go to take different jobs? So that's part of all the stress involved in as well, Steve. But all of them great candidates, wonderful people, and we wouldn't have talked to them if they weren't. They all could have done a really good job here.
Hey Trev, I think Matt mentioned up there sneaking in here. How important was that for him and Julie to be able to see this place, and how did you do that? How did you pull that off?
Well, that's why I mentioned my wife. My wife has been the superstar in this whole deal because she's been the one that was really good. So they flew in. I don't know exactly what the dates were, but my wife went to Omaha. They flew into Omaha, and they stayed with us at our house, and we were able to show them around Lincoln and the great state of Nebraska. It's just like recruiting. It was no different for them. If we get people here, they're blown away by Lincoln and Omaha and the state of Nebraska. And so I really thought, it's one thing to, see videos about our university. It's one thing to read about us, but you have to get them here. And so I thought it was important that early on, and I did Zoom calls with Matt. I talked to him several times, but I really wanted to get him here. And so in talking to his agent, I said, I want him here. And fortunately, we had a donor that stepped up, and so we were able to get him flown in here and just really sit down and talk. And because a lot of what I read about him, a lot of what he said really resonated in what I believe in. Those are authentic, genuine comments that he made. That's what I believe. That's what we believe that we need here. And so, when we were able to sit down and face to face and build that trust, I think that was a game changer for both of us.
Hey, Trev, not knowing all the financials, because I doubt that you're going to tell us about the Panthers issue, at least right now. But he's going to be a top 10 paid coach in the country. I mean, the market has kind of been crazy with college football coaches. I mean, did you expect to have to go this high to get Matt here? And do you expect any blowback from the public, just saying that you guys have paid a lot of dead money, the other coaches?
Well, I don't worry about blowback from folks. We're going to do the right thing, the best thing that we can to help position the University of Nebraska to success. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, let's be honest. There's a power to now. Right? There's a power to. That's where we're evolving in college athletics, and that's certainly not to denigrate any of the other conferences, but that's kind of where we're heading. And I think you'll probably see the market shift for some of those coaches that you're mentioning in the Big Ten, even after the season. And so, look, at the end of the day, if we're going to be serious about having Nebraska football competing, at the upper levels of the Big Ten conference, there's going to be resources needed to acquire that talent. And so, well aware of that, and confident that Matt's the right guy to live up to it and earn that.
How much will keeping Mickey be a joint decision? How much will it be left up to Coach Rhule?
Well, it's really hard. It was certainly not a requisite of all the coaches. I did use that as part of the evaluation when I asked coaches. I asked them about what's their history been of retaining staff, and you could kind of get a sense for which coaches were a little bit more secure than others. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't have liked if Chancellor Green told me, Trev, we're going to hire you as the athletic director, but you're required to, hire and keep all these people. It just isn't fair. So all that I asked for And there's other people. It's just not Mickey Joseph. I think we have some really, really good people within our football program. Some of them aren't coaches. Some of them work in other areas. There's some great people that, and so Matt just needs to have an opportunity to sit down and talk with them, get to know them a little bit. And, he does have, as he mentioned, a little bit of a relationship or knowledge of Coach Joseph, which I think can help. And so it was not a requirement. And ultimately, this is going to be Matt Rhule's decision. He's the head coach, and he needs to hire the 10 assistant coaches that he believes gives him the best opportunity to win. As you mentioned, Eric, I mean, there's going to be high expectations, right? When you compensate a coach and have a $7 million salary pool, our expectations are going to be very high about output here.
You mentioned the analytics piece of it. What specifically pointed to Matt from that point of view, I guess, and probably being the guy for you?
Well, what I was trying to do is to take a look at. I mean, it's fascinating. You got to be careful with analytics because you can get talked into going for it on 4th and 2 at your 7-yard line, up 11, if you're not careful with analytics. But you can take a look at career progression. You can take a look at what is their record against team with lesser talent. What's their record against in 1-score games? What do 9-win teams in the Big Ten do relative to number of runs? How many times do they run the ball prior to having an explosive run? How do they do? And so with all of our candidates, I was able to actually get their history. And you have to be a little bit careful because some coaches, who start out at a lower level, maybe those numbers are skewed a little bit. But I just thought it was a good tool to use. And, while there's certain, pieces of those matrix that might point to one candidate over the other, all I can say is that Coach Rhule stood out as very, highly positioned within most all the metrics we looked at, which was, I felt, validation to the personal piece and his vision for where he wanted the program to be.
Thanks, Trev.
Thanks, Trev.